1 minute ago, the courtroom was just another stage of legal back and forth. And then, Ice Cube spoke. What he said didn't just name names, it dropped bombs. Not whispers, not rumors, but bold, direct claims that connected three of the most powerful and iconic figures in entertainment: Diddy, Oprah, and Jamie Foxx. The courtroom fell silent. Spectators were frozen. Even the judge looked momentarily stunned. You could hear the shift in energy, a mix of disbelief, fear, and stunned curiosity. People glanced at each other in shock. Some reporters dropped their pens. What was just moments ago a complex celebrity case suddenly felt like the tip of a much deeper, darker iceberg. And in the eye of that storm stood Ice Cube. Not as a rapper or actor, but as a man with something to say. This was no ordinary moment. It was history unfolding in real time. For months, Ice Cube has been speaking up, and not in the way we're used to seeing celebrities do. He's turned down projects, skipped mainstream platforms, and used interviews to critique Hollywood, corporate influence, and media manipulation. At first, many thought he was just being controversial. But lately, people are starting to realize something bigger might be happening. Cube isn't just sharing opinions, he's pulling threads. He's dropped hints about secret meetings, about how black entertainers are used, silenced, or controlled. He's spoken about the price of independence and how the industry treats those who try to walk away. All of this makes his courtroom appearance even more compelling. Why now? Why in this case? And why did he choose this moment to name people no one expected him to bring up? Clearly, there's more beneath the surface. When Ice Cube stood and spoke, he didn't just mention Diddy, Oprah, and Jamie Foxx in passing. He laid out a chain of connections that seemed to paint a picture of influence and silence within the industry. First, he referenced recent legal troubles surrounding Diddy, allegations that had already put the media on high alert. Then he turned to Jamie Foxx, hinting at odd circumstances surrounding his health scare and long recovery, noting how tightly information had been controlled. But what shocked the room most was when he named Oprah. Not because she had been accused of anything illegal, but because of her long-standing position as a symbol of benevolence and power. Cube claimed these three weren't just famous, they were gatekeepers, involved in overlapping circles of influence that extended into finance, entertainment, and politics. He stopped short of accusing anyone of crimes, but his words implied a pattern, a network, or at the very least, a silence that protected more than just reputations. Inside the courtroom, you could feel every eye lock onto Ice Cube. His tone wasn't angry, it was deliberate. He talked about controlled narratives, how fame is both a tool and a cage, and how some celebrities pay a high price to keep their contracts, their shows, or their silence. When he mentioned Diddy, he brought up the timing of settlements and NDAs. When he mentioned Jamie Foxx, he referenced the curious lack of hospital photos, unverified health updates, and contradictory reports. And when he got to Oprah, it wasn't about anything criminal. It was about silence. When big things happen in our community, Cube said, why do the same few voices always stay quiet? The prosecution looked uncomfortable. The defense team tried to object, but the judge allowed Cube to finish. By the time he stepped down, the room wasn't just stunned. It was unsettled. No one knew where this would go next, but everyone knew something had shifted. Was this all conspiracy, or is there a bigger pattern? Cube didn't present documents or recordings, but he pointed to the same recurring symbols, friendships, and industry overlaps that online communities have been dissecting for years. Some say it's just how elite networks work. Others believe there's a shadow economy in entertainment, one built on influence, compliance, and secrecy. When major celebrities get in trouble, their peers often stay silent. When voices rise, they suddenly disappear or rebrand. Coincidence or coordination? Cube's words resonated because they fit a broader suspicion that's been growing. From canceled tours to vanished whistleblowers, the entertainment world has its secrets. And Cube is one of the few insiders willing to question it all publicly. Whether you believe him or not, one thing is clear. His courtroom moment exposed something bigger than the case at hand. It cracked open the image the industry works hard to keep clean. Jamie Foxx's name being brought up reopened questions many fans were already asking. After his mysterious medical emergency in 2023, Foxx disappeared from public view. Rumors swirled, from stroke to cloning conspiracies, but few real answers emerged. His daughter shared optimistic updates, but there were no photos, no appearances, and no confirmation of what had happened. Then he re-emerged quietly, looking healthy, thanking people for their prayers, but offering no details. Ice Cube referenced this during his courtroom moment, not to accuse, but to ask, why all the secrecy? He noted how Foxx, known for being outspoken, had gone completely silent for months. Was it just privacy? Or was someone keeping him quiet? The implication wasn't that Foxx did something wrong, but that he may have seen something or knew something that made him a risk. Cube's framing suggested that silence isn't always voluntary in Hollywood. Diddy, on the other hand, has been at the center of controversy. In recent months, lawsuits, resurfaced videos, and troubling accusations have all collided. Ice Cube's reference to Diddy wasn't speculative. It tied into public, documented patterns, settlement agreements, non-disclosure clauses, stories that emerged and disappeared within hours. Cube didn't accuse Diddy directly, but he asked why someone with so many lawsuits and so much documented power rarely faces industry consequences. Is it because of who he knows, what he knows, or what he's protecting? The courtroom listened as Cube described an ecosystem where bad behavior is tolerated, as long as it's profitable or contained. His point wasn't just about Diddy. It was about a system that selectively shields or sacrifices its members. Cube suggested that when someone like Diddy is still thriving, while others disappear for less, the public should start asking deeper questions about who pulls the strings. Then came the moment no one expected. Oprah's name. Ice Cube spoke calmly but clearly, saying, "When leaders rise in our community, some speak out, and some stay quiet. Oprah always stays quiet when it matters most." It wasn't a criminal accusation, it was a cultural one. He talked about how Oprah has built her brand on empathy, empowerment, and influence, but rarely uses that platform to challenge the very institutions Cube believes harm Black artists and entrepreneurs. He pointed to her absence in key cultural conversations, whether about Hollywood's dark side, systemic gatekeeping, or Black entertainers under pressure. The courtroom wasn't shocked because Oprah was accused of a crime. They were shocked because someone finally said aloud what many whisper online. That silence, too, can be part of the problem. And coming from Ice Cube, a peer, not a pundit, it hit harder than any blog post or tweet ever could. What exactly did Ice Cube say that left the courtroom speechless? Among his standout lines, "When truth threatens the structure, silence becomes currency." He talked about contracts of complicity, where fame is the reward for staying quiet. He didn't use notes. He spoke from memory, connecting dots like a man who had carried this burden for years. At one point he said, "You don't have to believe me. Just start paying attention to who doesn't speak up when it matters." He ended with, "We can't afford another generation of artists who sell truth for access." These weren't rants, they were reflections. The courtroom wasn't just stunned because of what he revealed. They were stunned because it felt real. There was no performance, no sensationalism, just a man telling uncomfortable truths that many had felt but never said out loud. Outside the courthouse, the internet exploded. Within minutes, clips of Ice Cube's speech flooded social media. Twitter was on fire. Hashtags like "Cube said it," "Charmed Silent Giants," and "Hollywood Gate" shot to the top of trending lists. Commentators across YouTube and TikTok dropped emergency live streams to break it all down. Some defended Oprah and Fox. Others said Cube had finally given voice to what the culture already knew but feared to say. Celebrities reacted too, some with cryptic tweets, others with conspicuous silence. A few praised Cube's courage. Mainstream media hesitated, unsure how to frame a story that included names too big to challenge casually. But the conversation had already left the newsroom and gone to the people. And the people weren't waiting for permission to talk. They were connecting the dots themselves, asking hard questions, sharing old interviews, resurfacing stories that had been buried. The genie wasn't going back in the bottle. What comes next is anyone's guess. Legal teams may try to contain the narrative. Publicists will release statements. Media outlets will frame the story as complex or controversial. But the damage, or clarity, is already done. Ice Cube's statements could influence ongoing investigations, inspire new lawsuits, or even cause internal fallout among the Hollywood elite. More whistleblowers may come forward, or the machine may attempt to silence Cube like so many others before him. But this time feels different. The cultural tide has shifted. The public is more skeptical, more informed, and more connected than ever. If Cube's courtroom moment was the first domino, we're about to see what else falls. One thing's for sure, the era of unchallenged celebrity protection might be over. And accountability, for better or worse, has entered the building. If you're still watching, I want to hear what you think. Was Ice Cube brave or reckless? Are his claims part of a deeper truth? Or just strategic theater? Should celebrities with power speak up more? Or does silence mean complicity? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button if you believe in transparency. Subscribe if you're ready for more stories that break through the noise. Because moments like this, when the courtroom goes quiet, when truth hits hard, and when icons fall under scrutiny, remind us that fame doesn't equal freedom. And sometimes, the loudest voice in the room is the one finally telling the truth.